The rise of China, how it's rewriting global power and the world economy. In just a few decades, China has done what many thought was impossible. It's gone from a poor, isolated nation to a global powerhouse shaping the economy, technology, and politics of the entire planet. Today, China isn't just competing with the West, it's redefining what global power even means. So how did it get here? What's the strategy behind its rise? And could China's economy actually become the most dominant in the world? Let's unpack the story behind one of the most dramatic transformations in modern history, the rise of China. To understand China's rise, we have to rewind to the late 1970s. The country was still recovering from the chaos of Mao Zedong's Cultural Revolution. The economy was stagnant, millions were poor, and China was mostly cut off from global trade. Then came Deng Xiaoping, the man who would change everything. In 1978, Deng launched what he called reform and opening up. It was a radical shift, allowing private enterprise, inviting foreign investment, and experimenting with capitalism inside a communist system. Special economic zones like Shenzhen became testing grounds for this new hybrid model. Factories opened, jobs were created, and soon the world's goods were being stamped with 3 words: Made in China. Over the next few decades, China would lift more than 800 million people out of poverty, the largest poverty reduction in human history. But this wasn't just about economics. It was the foundation of a carefully planned global strategy. Unlike Western democracies, China's political power is centralized under the Communist Party of China, or CPC. There are no rival political parties, no frequent elections, and no major leadership turnover. To many outsiders, that sounds restrictive. But to China's leaders, it's a strength, a system that allows long-term vision and consistency. This model is built on something called performance legitimacy. In simple terms, the party stays in power not by popular vote, but by delivering results, stability, growth, and progress. Under President Xi Jinping, who took power in 2012, China became more assertive than ever. She introduced the idea of the Chinese dream of national rejuvenation, the belief that China must reclaim its historic place as a great world civilization. That dream is both economic and political. At home, it's meant tighter control, anti-corruption campaigns, and a stronger state role in business. Abroad, it's meant a louder, more confident China, one that no longer simply participates in global affairs but shapes them. China's early success came from one clear formula: cheap labor plus foreign investment plus mass exports equals explosive growth. The government invited Western companies to build factories in China, offering low costs and efficient infrastructure. In return, Chinese workers gained skills, and local companies learned how to compete globally. By the 2000s, China had joined the World Trade Organization, and its economy became the world's manufacturing hub. Phones, clothes, electronics, almost everything you touched was made in China. But as the years went on, China realized something. It couldn't rely on being the world's factory forever. So the country began a massive transformation, from low-cost manufacturing to high-tech innovation. In 2015, Beijing launched Made in China 2025, a bold plan to dominate future industries like robotics, semiconductors, artificial intelligence, and green energy. The message was clear. China didn't just want to make products, they wanted to invent them. Companies like Huawei, BYD, Alibaba, and Tencent became global giants. And a rising middle class, now over 400 million people, began fueling a booming domestic market. This shift is guided by what she calls dual circulation, an economy that balances global trade with strong local consumption. In other words, China wants to be self-reliant, but still powerful abroad. In 2013, China unveiled its most ambitious foreign policy project yet, the Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI. It's essentially a modern Silk Road, a network of railways, ports, highways, and digital infrastructure connecting Asia, Africa, Europe, and beyond. Through the BRI, China is financing and building trillions of dollars worth of infrastructure projects in over 150 countries. Ports in Pakistan, railways in Africa, highways in Eastern Europe, all built with Chinese loans, Chinese materials, and often Chinese labor. To supporters, it's a win-win partnership that helps developing nations grow. To critics, it's debt trap diplomacy, a way for China to gain political influence over struggling economies. Either way, the result is the same. China is extending its reach across the world. It's not just trading with nations, it's connecting and shaping them. China hasn't stopped at infrastructure. It's also rewriting the rules of global finance. Institutions like the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, AIIB, And the BRICS New Development Bank now offer loans without the strict political conditions often attached to Western aid. This gives China soft power, influence through money, not military. At the same time, Beijing is promoting its own currency, the renminbi, RMB, for global trade. The goal? To reduce dependence on the US dollar and eventually make the RMB a true international reserve currency. In 2016, the RMB was officially included in the IMF's special drawing rights basket, a symbolic moment marking China's arrival as a major financial power. This, combined with China's vast foreign exchange reserves and investment networks, means that global trade is slowly, but surely, tilting eastward. China's rise isn't just about money. It's about power and security. The country has spent decades modernizing its military, turning the People's Liberation Army into one of the most advanced fighting forces on Earth. It's developing stealth jets, hypersonic missiles, cyber capabilities, and even space technology. In the South China Sea, China has built artificial islands and military bases, extending its territorial claims and challenging U.S. influence in the Indo-Pacific. But while China flexes its hard power, it also invests heavily in soft power through media, education, and culture. Thousands of Confucius Institutes have opened worldwide to teach Mandarin and Chinese culture. State-backed media networks broadcast China's perspective globally. And through diplomacy and development aid, Beijing presents itself as the leader of the developing world, a champion of what it calls win-win cooperation. It's a narrative designed to contrast sharply with what China portrays as Western arrogance and interventionism. For all its success, China's path to dominance isn't guaranteed. The first major challenge is demographics. After decades of the one-child policy, China's population is aging fast. By 2050, it could lose hundreds of millions of working-age citizens, shrinking its labor force and increasing the burden on the young. Second is debt. China's rapid urbanization and real estate boom have left it with a mountain of local government and corporate debt. Recent property crises, like the collapse of Evergrande, have shaken investor confidence. Third is technology dependence. Despite huge progress, China still relies on Western allies like the US, Japan, and Taiwan for advanced semiconductors and key technologies. Trade wars and sanctions have exposed just how fragile that dependence can be. And finally, there's geopolitics. The rivalry with the United States is intensifying, from tariffs and tech bans to military posturing in the Pacific. All of this adds friction to China's ambitions. So, can China actually become the world's most dominant economy? In pure numbers, maybe yes. By some estimates, China could surpass the US in GDP by the 2030s, and it already leads in purchasing power. But global dominance isn't just about GDP. It's about innovation, trust, culture, and influence. It's about whose values shape the global system. China's success story offers a model, one that promises modernization without adopting Western democracy. That message resonates across Africa, Asia, and Latin America. For many developing nations, Beijing's model feels practical, not ideological. If the 20th century was the American century, the 21st might just be remembered as the Chinese century, an era defined by state-led capitalism, technological rivalry, and a reshaped world order. If you enjoyed this breakdown, consider subscribing for more deep dives into global power shifts, economics, and the future of geopolitics. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay curious.